Hello, Sparkly Beans. It is time for our February wrap up. If you are new here, hi, my name is Avery, and I help folks who are passionate about liberation and justice to discover themselves as well as their roles in an emerging future. And this is our monthly wrap up video where we talk about things that I bought, decks that I've been working with, books I'm reading, things I've watched, etc., stuff like that. And we do a little update on how things are going. So, February, yeah, this was a month, y'all. So I'm gonna keep this one shorter. Last time I think I went for like 2 hours in a wrap up video. So if stuff comes up, I'm gonna like try to just make a note and make a later video to go in depth on it. But I wanted to give you a little bit of an update to the month. So yeah, I was relieved that at the beginning of February, I believe was when, or maybe it was right at the end of January, but the Mercury direct station was, I don't know if y'all felt that. I've heard a lot of people talking on social media about how it was just a really intense station from Mercury being retrograde to Mercury going direct. And I felt that so strongly. It was like I could not do, I was actually panicking a little because I was so annoyed with myself. I can't remember if I talked about this last time, but I was so annoyed with myself at the end, like during the retrograde, that I had planned to do all this writing for the Heart-Centered Swords series, which some of you may have received or seen the webinar on YouTube. But I was so like in my head about it because I needed to write these emails, and in the period where the moon was waning and Mercury was retrograde, it was like, it is not happening. And you know, I had to like be gentle with myself and not beat myself up for not paying attention to the astrological cycles because you know, I don't do a lot of prediction in my astrology. I don't do a lot of timing techniques. But as I think I mentioned last time, I am trying to work more with the moon and moon cycles and moon phases. And so this was definitely like a reminder, a wake-up call, or just a, yeah, like this is real stuff. That my energy kind of waned. And then the good news is, as February kicked off and as Mercury went direct, and I think Venus had gone direct, a lot of stuff was changing astrologically, but also just generally new month. I was able to, so spoiler alert, got all the emails out, got everything out. But a lot of my energy was going into that series for the first couple weeks of February. And just, yeah, like falling out of some of my routines and like the stuff that I had been cultivating really well in December and then kind of staying with in January, and then this offering was like, so it was definitely a learning. I'll go into this more for folks who are in my founders tier or sustaining contributors. And you can check out that link below to Patreon. But I'll go into more depth in a quarterly video about kind of some of the, I've been learning a lot, honestly, in my business about my own energy and like running a neurodivergent business and running a business that's aligned with my energy. But actually I did like a live on Instagram the other day talking about that. So I'm moving away from Instagram. One of the actually big things in February was just like processing what that's going to look like. So I'll refer you to this, but also say don't worry about following me on Instagram because I'm probably either moving totally away or moving mostly away. I'm trying to figure that out. But I did do a live on Friday that you can check. Queer Magical is my Instagram, where I talked in kind of a really like rambling Piscean way about my last year and my career journey. And so if you're interested in, you know, like ideas about some of that stuff and what it's like to run a neurodivergent business, to run a business with disabilities, I did talk about that there. And I can do more on this channel, but I will in the quarterly report for supporters talk about that in depth. I'll just say that, yeah, like Heart-Centered Swords was so good to do. Like, thank you everyone who watched the replay, who came live, who received the emails. If you signed up and you still haven't read the emails, that's great. I'm so happy that you have them and that you can access them when you want to. You know, one of the things that's really big for me is that we all have our own timing and really like feeling into that and allowing that to unfold. But yeah, it was a lot of work going into that. I think there was kind of like an anticlimactic feeling. There's almost a feeling of like, okay, like all the marketing went into it, and I got folks on my email list, which I was really excited about, because I think my best modality is really kind of like long form, heart centered writing. But so it was beautiful to be able to share that. And then right after, it was kind of like, now what, you know? Like, you know, like I had wanted to have that like be available to kind of feed in with that free offering, and to be able to say like, here's how you book with me. And then I had all this like annoying stuff happen with just figuring out booking software, and I'm still working that out. And so there's no like way to kind of figure out how that was received. But I did get some wonderful, like, you know, some of my friends who came live, thank you, and thank you for letting me know that it was meaningful to you and that you're still thinking about it. Like, that means so much to me. I've gotten a couple of emails now who have received the series, who found it meaningful. And I think it was like a wake-up call. One, like realizing how important it is for me as a consumer, and if you like consume free content, like let people know, because I think, you know, if something really hits you and something works well with you, like I've been trying to do this more when I'm really inspired by like an author or a creation. Just like sometimes you can think, you know, oh, these people are probably getting like, you know, thousands of emails, and they're probably, I mean, nobody probably thinks I'm getting thousands of emails, but assumes that we're getting like a lot of feedback and or just know or are confident that our work is hitting people. But like honestly, it can be really really like, you know, I'm putting my heart out there, and I hope someone receives it. And so yeah, if you not just for me, but like for anyone, if you there's content that really hits you, you know, just taking a moment to reach out, even very briefly, and let the creator know, that can be really supportive, and just as supportive, honestly, in a lot of ways, as financial support. And just sharing, you know, the work that you enjoy with other people in your life. Just like keep that energy going. So yeah, I February, so that dropped in, so as the emails were going out, I think it was Tuesday of the week where the emails were going out, I finished the writing ahead, and then it was like, okay, I'm just gonna like rest, I'm gonna chill. And I mostly managed that, but mostly. But yeah, I was doing some other stuff. So what was I gonna say? Pardon my ADHD for a moment, kids. Oh yeah, just well, okay, so I'll say, so a couple of things I'll share. One, so yeah, as I mentioned moons, moon cycles. So that was going through another lunation, like going through that period of doing a lot productively as the moon was waxing, but then also not feeling a lot of spaciousness, and then going back into the waning cycle and feeling kind of like a lot of doubt came up around my work, around like how I serve people, and like which of these many ways I could serve people. So I was like processing a lot of that. Again, I'll go in more in depth for that quarterly report for supporters, but like that basic theme was strong. And then also there was a lot of like anxiety leading up to this really major new moon, which I'll actually talk about in the March wrap up, because this is a March thing technically, but leading up to it and leading up to my birthday on the 2nd, it was like I felt like this anxiety with like this back and forth with astrology of like, how much do I intentionally try to use, right, like try to lean into this energy that's really major for me on this particular day, and how much do I say, you know, my practice is not about taking advantage of or using astrology. And there's nothing wrong with, like, I think you can absolutely use timing techniques in a way that is not capitalist or goals focused, or, you know, I'm not saying that timing techniques are necessarily like that, but what I am saying is that it's important for me when there's like a major thing coming up personally, not to let my brain glom onto it in that way where it's like, now, you know, this thing we must take advantage of, and if we don't, we're cursed. You know, that black and white thinking, it sometimes comes out of some of my own neurodivergence, and I'm just noticing and like developing awareness of the ways in which that can come up for me. I literally wrote a note to myself, which I'll make sure I have so I can read on the next wrap up, but like 6 months ago, about not freaking out about this moon, and then I freaked out about this moon. So yeah, so that was happening. So I was doing a lot of like thinking about what's gonna happen for my birthday, and then just some like annoyances. You know, I'm still trying to get the one-on-ones booking set up, and it's just a lot of tasks I have to do, and I keep going back and forth where I get in like the flow. I don't know if you ever do this when you're setting up something technical where like you get into a flow and you're like, okay, I'm doing it, I'm gonna do it all today, and then you hit a snag, you have to reach out to customer service, and by the time they get back to you, it's a whole thing. Anyway, so I've been noodling a lot on like what my business looks like, how I serve people, what is most important to focus on. I think I can get very much in a place of like, I'm kind of everywhere, or there's so many ideas, so many things I want to share with the world. And if you're ADHD, you might have this experience where it's like, I have so many things, but like just getting one of them executed is hard. But fortunately I have great supports and even more supports. I recently joined a thing that's really supportive. So I'm just like trying to like lean into those supports. The other thing that came up for me in February was that if anybody here has followed me for productivity content or remembers the Unproductive series, I'm probably going to bring that back. Maybe I'll continue that series, or maybe I'll do it in another form. But one of the things I've really been thinking about is, you know, I didn't want to become like the go-to productivity person for healers, because I think I had a block where it was like I wanted to do healing work. I had this sense of like, I want to do healing work, I want to do direct work, I want to be in space with people. And one of the big themes that's been coming up this month is just around like understanding where I meet different needs, and like where I think it's really important for healers to like, there's more layers of this than I realized. So people talk about how it's important for healers to do their own healing, to not project onto clients. Absolutely. But I think like even going further into that was realizing my need for interdependence, and seeing like beautiful ways in which my work could play into that, but then also wanting to not depend or rely on client like my business container being the only place, the main place where I get that sense of meeting others' needs and having my needs met. I want that in my business, but I also want to like separate, not separate, but yeah, I want that interdependence in many areas of life. And so part of that is understanding the boundaries and the containers, and like what is for my service, what is for, even within my service, what is for free content, what is paid, what is client work, what is everyone work. A lot of those themes have been coming up, and so when I'm thinking about my work and like who it serves and what it is, thinking about that. But to come back to the productivity piece, so like I think maybe the way I've been thinking about supporting people and being a healer at first, some of that I think came from a longing to be in really meaningful one-on-one relationships where I can help others. And one thing I've realized is that I want that to be part of my personal life, so that I'm not reliant upon my work for that. And I don't want the sense of like I'm using clients to fill a need or fill a hole or fill a desire to be helpful, because one of the things, you know, in healing that's really important is to always, like, it's not about you, but you are part of it. And I think a relationship between someone who does healing and someone who receives healing is not a one-way relationship. You know, a lot of people don't even like the word, like don't like to say that they heal, because it's like, no, I don't heal, I support you to heal. And that is very much my ethos as well, although I'm fine with the word healer. So there is this like co-creative space, this like generative space where between a client and a practitioner, I think, where you are certainly providing new perspectives and new frameworks, new ideas, new tools, but then, you know, it's all generating in the space between, and it's greater than the sum of its parts, which means that you don't want to come into it with an agenda, right? And that's always a risk. So I've just been thinking about that a lot, and like sort of ethics around healing and what that work looks like. And then realizing that maybe the productivity stuff, you know, I was very resistant at first because it felt like my old job, and I didn't want to, it was like, no, I want to be a healer now. I want to like, you know, I want to support people directly. Like that's the work I want to do. I don't want to accidentally end up being the tech expert who helps all the healers but doesn't get to do, like only gets to do the tech, you know? But I think that the productivity stuff that I know, the tech stuff I know, I'm starting to realize more and more that there is a sort of magic at the way that I interact with these things, because I've been doing them for so long, and because I never bought into really like capitalist ideas of productive, but I always learn these tools as ways to, especially the productivity stuff, not to be productive, but as ways to build a better relationship with time and energy and with the capitalist systems I have to interact with. And I think that lens that I bring to it, and that like way of thinking about, you know, what does it mean to have a task manager if you're like an intuitive person who runs their business very like in the present moment. Like, why would you have a task manager? Well, I have reasons for that, right? That I could maybe share. So I've been thinking more about how like productivity might thread into my work, and I'm considering getting a Notion certification, because I've been using Notion hardcore for a while, and at first I thought selling tarot and astrology Notion templates was the way to go. Now I'm kind of looking at what's already out there and realizing that maybe the stuff, like the stuff I use, the way I do that, may not actually be as useful to others, or may not be a gap that's missing. But I do think that maybe like workshops or workbooks or something around organizing the spiritual practice in Notion, or just in general, around productivity. You know, what Unproductive was initially designed for, right, as a series, was like, it was productivity for the rest of us. It was the idea of getting beyond. So anyway, if that kind of stuff resonates with you, let me know, because I am thinking about a lot of stuff like that. But I don't want to, okay, we're almost at 20 minutes, so I'm going to try to like wrap this up soon and get to the goodies and showing you things. I want to mention, so I've mentioned this before, just in case you missed it. In the run-up for Heart-Centered Swords, I was guesting in a few places, and that I haven't sufficiently promoted. So one that I really haven't sufficiently promoted that I just want to share, that I really loved this conversation, is if you want to check out Laura at Aquamarine18's YouTube channel. I'll try to remember to leave links below, but we had a really interesting conversation about the elements, but we hit a bunch of different things, and we got all like deconstructy and nerdy. So I would really recommend that, Aquamarine18, that channel. Check out I think it's just a conversation about the elements with Avery Fawcett, I believe is the title. Then I think I've already mentioned I was on Blind Love Radio with Anna, which was a really cool, very like channeled moon kind of psychic conversation. So that's wherever podcasts are found. And then the third thing was I did a reading for my friend Chimdi on her channel, and that one was kind of interesting because I really enjoyed it, and enjoyed like sharing with Chimdi a little bit about tarot and then doing a reading. But there were a lot of comments with specific religious perspectives about tarot, which I like. Look, I don't like, no shade. Like, I totally, yeah, I don't. I'm not like, oh my gosh, you're wrong. when that happens, I'm always just kind of like, if you want to know more, I can explain to you how tarot isn't really, I don't think it's what you think it is, but also, so also like a couple things I did during the like recovery period after Hearts and Swords. I loved participating in, and I believe it's up for sale now, I want to say. But Ari Felix's, or maybe it's freely available. Ari Felix did a really cool gathering about relationship anarchy and astrology on Valentine's Day, and that was super great to just be in that space and feel really like supported and with people. And you know, relationship anarchy is this term where I understood some of it, and I always thought of relationship anarchy as being like your general approach to romantic and sexual relationships being very like unstructured and not about labels and that, and I kind of thought of it as like a version or like another relationship style that would be complementary to potentially polyamory. So I would read about it, you know, in non-monogamy spaces, like, oh, there's polyamory, there's relationship anarchy, there's open relationship, like it was one of the list, right? And Ari helped me understand, and that space helped me understand that relationship anarchy is actually the thing that I've been teaching for years and talking about for years. And I think I first got really turned on to it. I had an intuitive sense of it, but got really turned on to it with a book. Oh my God. Wow. Do I even remember? I used to recommend this book to everyone, but it was a book by a legal scholar about family relationships and the ways in which the law prioritizes marriage, and specifically at the time heterosexual marriage, and monogamous marriage. I can't remember the name of the book, but I'll try to leave it below if I think of it. It's on my Goodreads, but in that book, and also before that, I had read Bell Hooks Against Love, or not Against Love. That's not what it's called at all. All About Love. I was combining All About Love by Bell Hooks with Against Equality, which is a series that was like a radically queer kind of series, question focused on things like marriage and the military and the LGBTQ movement. Both of those books informed me. But yeah, All About Love, and then this book I can't remember the name of. Nancy Polikoff is the legal scholar. I can't remember the name, but it's Nancy Polikoff, whatever her book was called, about something like, you know, about family, deconstructing family. I don't know. Point is, that book helped me see the ways in which my sense, and now I realize it's also like a neurodivergent thing. It's very common with neurodivergence to kind of be like, I don't get the like, this is this kind of relationship, this is this kind. I'm gonna do a video on this channel about like attraction and neurodivergence. I don't know, maybe a whole series, honestly. Hey, note to self, do a series about attraction and we're live right here. I'm making a note to myself. Series on what did I literally just say? Welcome to Avery Has ADHD. Series on relationship anarchy and attraction and neurodivergence and labeling relationships. We're gonna do it, y'all. We're gonna do this on YouTube. But because I can talk so much about it. But yeah, that book, and then just like my own thinking, I started to realize more and more how my own sense of like, I don't know, is this dating? Are we friends? Are we like, what is our relationship? And does it matter? And the warring sides of my multiple neurodivergencies being like, it really matters. I want a label, and I don't get labels. I don't understand why we categorize things. I have those warring sides in my brain. So yeah, it spoke to that, but then it added on a layer of me realizing the ways in which growing up in a white, kind of like, you know, like not the nicer suburbs, but still suburbs, growing up and like being around, you know, a lot of like nuclear families and just like a particular model of family. No, I didn't know the ways in which I didn't know about things like concepts like fictive kinship and the ways in which other cultures, other than a Northern European model, you know, where larger families are the norm, or extended family living together are the norm. Or rather, I didn't notice it. And actually, when I like learned the ways in which advocating for a more decentralized idea of relationship not only benefited queer people and polyam people, but also benefits all these other cultural norms that have been written out by colonialism and racist capitalism. Then I could see, looking back, I could go, oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, you know, friends growing up and realizing that, like, oh, you know, my friends who came from Black diaspora, often, like, their families were more, like, extended family living together, and there was a different understanding of what it meant to take care of elders, and then seeing the ways in which, you know, blended families and others are not supported in the same way by normative, like, relationship models. All of that is relationship anarchy. Like, and Ari Felix described it as a rigorous love ethic, and that it's an ethic you could apply to any kind of relationship style. It's not about, are you monogamous, are you non-monogamous? Doesn't matter. It's about the ethic of treating each relationship as its own thing, and you know, defining things for yourself, and like not prioritizing or assuming that like certain relationships are a priority because like this is your partner or this is your, you know, law, or that particular labels automatically mean uncommunicated expectations, which I think is a big problem with what I always call monogonormativity, a term I coined many years ago, though I'm sure others have thought of that. Monogonormativity to me isn't just being monogamous. I think you could be monogamous and not monogonormative, but the normative piece is the norms around, you know, we assume things, we don't communicate, we decide that we are this thing, and then we don't like talk it out. And I've been like prickling a lot on that. We'll get to it. Like some of the things I've been watching include dating shows, but I've gotten kind of prickly when I watch, even more prickly than usual when I watch these shows, because I'm just screaming at my television, you know, like, relationship scripts, you know, this is like a script you're following, but like there's no real script and nobody knows the rules. Here's why this is bad. So I used to like do all sorts of teaching and workshops on that. And while I don't know if I'll go back to just being a sex educator, I do think we're gonna have to do a video about that at some point too, about dating shows and all the like the things you learn from them that aren't true. Okay, I've rambled. I didn't mean to ramble. Hey, but we're still only at 20 minutes, so I'm not doing too bad. So yeah, I also want to mention that I joined Ari's Temple Between Worlds. I've been really excited about this, seeing all the amazing Instagram posts and just the language. Ari's language speaks to my soul. Very, very watery kind of vibe. But you can sign up for the Temple Between Worlds, which is a membership community. But, well, is it a membership? Do we still call it a membership community? I'm not sure, but Ari announced that it will be a limited container. So that's a 3-month, I believe, container, and it will close after the current offering. And then Ari's not going to have, I believe, not going to have a membership unless something else is announced. So yeah, it is your chance to get in on that. I joined that. There's a Discord, and you get access to various things. Ari's poetic protocols, I believe, quarter moon gatherings. And some other stuff. So, yeah, I did that in February, and I haven't really had a lot of chance to dig into that community, but I'm really, really stoked because I just immediately had a sense of like, oh my God, these are my people. And I think just generally, like, as we're moving into Pisces season, I have this real desire, this longing of like, I tweeted the other day something about Pisces. What did I say? Because it was actually pretty, I'm gonna quote myself. I'm hilarious, y'all. Check it out. No, but I tweeted this. So by the way, as I'm moving away from Instagram, I am coming back to my original social media home, Twitter, and it's at Queer Magical. One of the things I did in February that was nerve-wracking. Oh my God, this is so scary because somebody could swipe your account or swipe your handle. But I wanted to move my handle because when I created a second Twitter account, I just realized there was no reason for that. And so I I have a Twitter account that I've literally been on Twitter since 2007, the year it was founded. So not that it's huge, but I have a couple of thousand people on that account. And so I wanted to move the name Queer Magical over there. And I did it successfully, but it's really scary because you basically say, change this one, now change this one, and hope in the second between that nobody swipes your name. Is anybody really waiting to swipe name? I don't know. I never know how paranoid I am about stuff like this. So yeah, as much as I'm trying to move away from other people owned, from like social media stuff, and I am really prioritizing still my newsletter. Despite that fact, you know, I get a lot of being here on YouTube, and I do like Twitter, so for the time being, you can definitely find me there. But yeah, so the thing that I said on Twitter was that the mating call of the Pisces, only perceptible to other Pisces, although I did say this could be Sun, Moon, Mercury, or Venus, so if you have Pisces, any of those, that the mating call is, will anyone ever understand the language of my heart? So like this is the Pisces feel, right? It's this very like, I want to communicate in my heart language, but like who will get that? I'm so feeling that. If you're feeling that, tell me below. If you're not feeling it, if you're like, why are all these water babies running around, running amok? Well, you can say below there. Oh, I'm sorry, not running. I believe running amok is actually a term we do not use anymore. Running rampant. Doop, doop, doop. So, yeah. So just to summarize, yeah, I mean, February I think has really been, like, the balance between rest and action, the balance between not wanting to spend all my time learning and not taking action, but also wanting to be gentle with myself. I never said the thing. When I was talking about the productivity, you know, along similar themes like self-determination and choosing, decide, you know, knowing when something's working and when something's not working. So the big thing that I did productivity-wise is I actually, I was on a drive to get some dental fillings, one of which I think maybe not happy, which sucks, but I was on a drive to do that, to the Seattle area, and as I was driving, I was listening to a GTD podcast, and ended up with this whole plan to overhaul my entire getting things done system. But the thing is, I've been doing getting things done methodology since 2008, and my thing with that is that if you're interested in getting things done, or any really like system like that, productivity kind of methodology, is it's never done. Like, it's never static, and it's not supposed to be. It's always evolving with you, and it's always, and one of my things about productivity is like, it's got to be living. Like, you know, is this aligning with my values? Is this tracking with my energy and the way I want to be? Is this working for me? I think so often we can like set up databases and systems and things and then be like, we're done, but that's not. It's always a living thing. So, you know, I almost treat my I know this is silly, but like I almost treat my databases or my systems with the reverence that I would treat, you know, a tarot deck or like other things in my animist perspective. I think my system has life, right? And I almost like treat it like we're in conversation. So I don't know what that metaphor means that I overhauled it. I guess I changed all its clothes or something, but that has been a big thing as well. And so, yeah, just like going through the frustration, I think, of capitalism and like being like what I think we call now a multi-potentiate, but somebody who jumps around and does lots of different things, and just like how does that all flow together? Okay, so that was my personal update. 35 minutes. Tell me if you like these. If you probably aren't listening if you don't, but if you're like, yes, keep doing this. But let's talk about what I bought, what I worked with, what I blah blah blah. So let's start with this month's haul. So what arrived this month? What did I grab? Well, maybe in March we'll talk about the vegan snacks, because I think I started eating them in March. I had a moment of weakness in the middle of the night where I was just like, I'm buying snacks. I need selection. Because I'm not going into grocery stores in person right now. and that limits what is available to me. But what did arrive this month? Oh no, actually you know what? I'm going to talk about. Technically, this is March, but because I've got it all here and I don't want to have to pull it out again. One of the things I did in February. If anybody else, let me know below. Did anybody peep that Llewellyn sale and accidentally buy some things? So Llewellyn, I guess, has an annual sale. I didn't even know this. They're one of the big mass market tarot publishers. They did that, and I got some stuff. Mainly, what I did is I got some oracle decks that have been on my list forever. A lot of which I've seen from y'all on TarotTube. Like I think I want to say this one of these was Heather. I initially found out about. I think one was Julie. I think one was Lisa. So you know, TarotTube people. But I often have these mass market decks on my list, but I don't end up buying them because it's like, well, they're always available and they're not that expensive, and so I'm like, okay, well, let me like budget for this Kickstarter, and then I forget. And that's good. I want to support indie creators, but I forget that I've had some of these things on the list for a long time. So I'm glad to know Llewellyn has an annual sale, and that's probably how I'll handle the Llewellyn decks from now on. But let me show you what I got. So let's start with, actually, yeah, let me start with some of the accessories and stuff, and then I'll show you the decks. So I grabbed some bags. If Lisa or Peggy watches this, I'm so sorry to admit I got bags from Llewellyn. But as much as I do love supporting, and not just Lisa, and not just Peggy's shop, Sparks Creations, but other Etsy folks. I love buying tarot bags from independent creators. But I have a lot of tarot decks, and my budget right now is limited, so I did grab just some. I mean, these are, look, they're not as nice as you get from creators, but they were like $5, so I got some new bags. These are all, I think, like related to Llewellyn decks. Like they go with a deck, but I don't care about that. This one I really like. Water, Ace of Cups. So I got those, and then one thing I grabbed that at first I was like, oh, this is bigger than I realized. I wanted a spread cloth that didn't have patterns, because all of my spread cloths have some sort of like design on them, and although that's lovely, when you do a spread, sometimes, like, I don't know, you want less background. So I saw that there's just a blue velvet cloth, and I was like, great, this thing is, like, read the dimensions, kids. Before you buy anything on the internet, read the dimensions. This is the size of my entire tarot table, but that might actually be useful sometimes. Just cover the whole thing. Because I use a coffee table to read on. It's so funny, I, like, set up my desk, so I bought a desk at my old apartment that was going to be like my spiritual practice, my like space, and it was going to be the space that I do this stuff. And I think it's a real good like metaphor for the way I approach spirit in general, which is that it's messy. It shows up wherever it shows up. You know, in reality, I have tarot. Like I ended up buying a little shelf that I use on my work desk, where I'm keeping tarot decks now, because I want to just grab it, you know, as I'm sitting here and not move. But I do have this desk over in the corner that in my old apartment, I had it set up in my bedroom, and it's got, and here I have it in my main room here. It's got on top all my like journals and witchy, tarot, astro, whatever books. My sort of rotating altar, which I'll maybe make a video on at some point, in the center. I'm sorry, I'm looking at it now to tell you what's on it. It's got like pens and washi tape and like journaly type stuff, and then underneath it's got like all of my extra supplies for journaling, and then it has a surface where I can read. Well, in my old apartment, it doesn't have its own chair, so I would always just use the top of my fireplace, and then in this place I set it all up, and I put my piano next to it so I can move the piano stool, so theoretically I could sit there and read, and I have a light there. I never, ever, ever, ever read there. It's beautiful. Don't read there. I read on my coffee table, and I have my whole coffee table now like set up as a reading space because I like to sit on the floor. So there you go. Best laid plans. So I might cover my coffee table with this spread. Anyway, that was a lot of talking about a spread cloth. Okay, so the decks I got, I haven't unwrapped them, so I'm not going to show them, but I'll in the future probably review them. So I finally got this one, the Foxfire Kitsune Oracle, which I had like been anticipating since before it actually came out. This one just has really beautiful imagery. I know Lisa recently anti-hauled it and said it didn't work well for her, but the imagery of the Liminal Spirits Oracle is really, and liminal is like one of my like key like main words about myself and my business and everything. Like so hopefully I want it to work. I want it to work. Into the Lonely Woods is another Lucy Cavendish deck. So was the Foxfire, I believe. This just to me very much reminds me of, and I'll preface this by saying I'm pretty sure, I can't remember right now, but I'm pretty sure there's some real problematic shit around Maurice Sendak, so aware of that. But when I was a kid, my grandpa and I really bonded around Where the Wild Things Are, and I really liked like fables and stuff, and this just like had it just had an inner child feeling that I needed to get. And then the Sacred Rebels, this is my first Alana Fairchild. Like, I don't have a lot of these mass market decks. I have a lot of them on my wish list, but so that's what I grabbed. So they arrived. So it was cool because they arrived on my birthday. So it was like my birthday present to me was the Llewellyn haul. The only other deck. In February the only other deck that arrived. For once, this is only the second time I've been successful with an eBay tarot thing, but the Tarot of Many Doors. I think just people weren't watching for this one. I managed to snag at a fair. Only, I would say actually with shipping it was a little more than I would have paid if I got it when it came out, but like not much more. So this is a like super queer, super like sci-fi deck. So it's a lot of, you know, rename stuff, but so I haven't read with this yet at all, so I cannot comment, but I'll show you just a few cards. So unfortunately this is out of print, but yeah, it's just, I'm excited about it. And then in terms of decks I worked with, I didn't actually read a ton of tarot in February. I'll just say, because I think it's important to say that like even people where like large parts of our lives are tarot, we don't always read tarot all the time. And in fact, the more time I spend with tarot, the more I use it in ways that are not readings and not pulling cards. Maybe I'll do a video about that. I'm gonna have to make a note to myself that this video is just a bunch of me having video ideas for later. So if I mention anything and you're like, do that, don't forget that one, put a comment, because I might forget to do that. But yeah, I wasn't spending a ton of time reading, but I was continuing to work with, I can't remember if I mentioned this before, the Cosmic Cycles Tarot, which I backed on Kickstarter, but then didn't actually have for a whole year because it went to my old place and I had to figure that out with my old roommate. But this modern deck, you know, some of the images are really, like the Queen of Pentacles, for example, is like sitting at a makeup table and it doesn't work for me. But in the way that I think a lot of modern decks, sometimes it's like you know, you might like get why they did something, but it just feels weird. However, this has been a really clear reader. This has been the one that's just been sitting at my, there it is. I'm going to show you this card in particular. It's just been sitting at my desk for when I need to grab cards. And I keep pulling this Page of Swords, and I really like it because it's like, I just feel intimately the feeling of, like being a little shaky, you know, finding the edge of your escape blade and like, and the like, I want to do the thing. I have something to say or share, Page of Swords, but like, it feels like, whoa, we're on a thin blade. So yeah, like imagery like that in this deck, I think just helps me connect to the meaning. Okay, so that's pretty much decks. Yeah, so this deck, and then I've been reading with the Seventh Sphere Lenormand. I have been doing Lenormand, however you want to say it. I've been doing some regular Lenormand, but I think I have made the decision in March. So this is a really beautiful Lenormand, but I think I'm gonna not do Lenormand anymore. Not sure how permanent that is. I don't want to like give away all my just drop a card, all my Lenormand decks, just in case it's a periodic thing. Like one of the things I've been learning is just to give myself a few days to like think through things, or a few weeks, or a few months. But I knew when I started Lenormand that its predictive style didn't really mesh with the way I relate to a lot of these tools, because I don't use tools to divine so much, and to predict the future. I use them for guidance and messages and things to take. But Lenormand is like, it's very clear. The point of Lenormand is to tell you what's going to happen, and it works. And I think it's been interesting realizing how, in part, like I'm drawn to the system. My brain is like, ooh, shiny, a new system to learn, and to understand. And so I've been enjoying the process of learning a system. But at the same time, I'm like, wait, but I don't know that I want to use this. Because my experience has been that when I pull Lenormand, I'll write up, like, especially for a longer period, like not just like a day, but say like a month, I'll write down what I thought it meant. I'll figure out at the end, it'll be like, oh, that's what that was about. Theoretically, that could help me to better understand what the cards are leading to, or what they're predicting. But it's sort of like with astrology timing techniques. I can look back and be like, that's fascinating, that's so cool. But like, I don't actually want to use it to quote unquote be prepared or to make decisions. I think that practicing with Lenormand regularly could risk pulling me out of my commitment, which is very hard to hold, my commitment to the present moment and to the understanding that we can't control the future. So yeah, I'm just gonna let Lenormand sit for a bit and see where I land. I am curious to know, though, are there folks who read Lenormand and have a similar ethos and have found ways to reconcile it? And what do you use Lenormand for? So, okay, let's do watching and then we'll do books. So I'll try to be quick about this, not going to rant. Things that I've watched. So I had one of those Apple TV trials that I wanted to use before it runs out. So I watched Schmigadoon, which is definitely fun and delightful. And it was short enough. That's one thing I like about Apple TV. Like I'm not going to subscribe to it or anything, but like more streaming services, please do short shows. Short shows. My attention span can handle 30 minutes, 6 episodes. So that was nice. So the best thing about Schmigadoon for me, honestly, was the brevity. But it was good. It was good. I watched one episode, no, not even a full episode of Ted Lasso, and went, I don't think it's that this is a really, the people have been saying it's really good, but I don't think it's like, this is a masterpiece that you need to watch. And I very rarely watch TV, so it needs to be at that level for me. I think it's that Ted Lasso, so tell me below if I'm missing something. But I was like, why do people like this so much? And I paused at like 3/4 through the episode and Googled. And I think it's that people in this moment, in this pandemic, need just something that's like light and a character who can just like take knocks on the back and be positive and be inspirational. And that need totally makes sense to me. And I'm meeting that need in other ways. Like I'm meeting that need through my practice and through, like, I don't really need Ted Lasso to tell me to be chill. So I don't know. If I'm missing something, let me know, but I probably won't finish that. I watched Boys State. It was horrifying. I'm not going to say anything more about that. The state of America has been terrible for pretty much its entire history. And then dating shows, I did fell back down. So I mentioned last time I fell back into The Bachelor. It's been so bad. This season, I've got to do something about dating scripts in The Bachelor, because I just need to like release my feelings somewhere. It's been really upsettingly bad. It's almost turning into a parody of itself at the same time, because I'll be like, and now they're gonna make a metaphor about how jumping off a bridge relates to relationships are hard. It's like, it's just not a good show. And then I did watch the first batch. I think the second batch just came out of Love Is Blind season 2, which is how I started on these dating shows. A coworker, when Love is Blind 1 came out, was so into it that I was like, I'll look at this. What is this? And I fell into a hole. Never got back out of the hole. So I did return to Love is Blind, and I thought it was worse than last time. I thought I was just really frustrated by some of the 2 of the male characters in particular. If you watch the show, you might know who I mean. The level of just shit that they did, like, in their little pod dates, and then that they continue to be main characters and end up with people, and like they're portrayed as just as sympathetic as anyone. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, like like, don't be such a misogynist or racist or whatever they are various things. Jerk, please. Yeah, okay, all right, that's my rant about dating shows. Books read. So I might be transitioning book reviews over to YouTube. I haven't decided. I might do like separate videos that are just, books this month, or maybe I'll do a full video per book and they'll be short. I don't know exactly. Let me know below if you have opinions. But I have been reviewing books, and as I'm moving away from Instagram, that needs a new home. So books I read, finished in February. So the Deja Vu, Black Dreams and Black Dreams and Black Time, yes. Black Dreams and Black Time. So I was drawn to that. I think initially just the title. I mean, like, dreaming and time are 2 things that I'm very curious about in general, and knowing like a Black feminist perspective on that, or this particular person, Gabrielle Seville. But yeah, it was a really, like, it's one of these like multi-genre kinds of books where there's poetry, there's prose, there's really interesting like experimentation with the way it's written, but not to a point, not like so experimental that you can't grasp it. Like, it was really accessible. The author writes about like all sorts of things from like Haitian diaspora to to performance art. She's a performance artist who writes, there's some like captured kind of transcripts of performance pieces, but also writing about performance art there, which I don't normally like. Like, I have trouble reading about art, but yeah, it was still like, it was more accessible to me than some things have been. There's like a really cool like transcript of a speech that she gave about dreams and the potential of dreaming as a college professor. There's a fascinating piece about reviewing. As a reviewer, it was like so meta because I'm reviewing this book and then she's writing about reviewing how many layers down, but a really fascinating piece about just grappling with being asked to write an introduction to a poetry chapbook that has the F slur, the queer one, in the title, which I'm not going to say out loud on YouTube because I'm sure that has repercussions. But and also, like, yeah, don't say that word. As a queer person in very specific, personal, private circumstances, I have had the experience of finding that word affirming. And also, I don't identify as a gay man, so I'm never quite sure as like a non-binary person and kind of like reclaiming terms, like where I fit there. But she writes with a lot of nuance about the way in which that term, that word, is reclaimed by some queer people. What does it mean for this, like, for it to be in the title of a chapbook that's written by, and I'm actually not sure how Wanda Coleman identifies, but so maybe queer, not sure, but by a Black woman who, well, yeah, I'll just say that, like, who I don't think was at the time, because this was a book in the 70s, in the culture, the way, yeah, I'm struggling with words here because I don't want to say like this is someone who didn't have access to the word, because I honestly don't know that, but Seville writes really honestly and really like relatively about the experience of being kind of like, okay, like she's actually saying really profound stuff. The contents of this book, of this poetry collection, has so much like raw black female experience is really important for people to know, like to experience, and also like engages with queerness in a really nuanced way. But because the title of the poem, that is the title of the book, has that word in it, upon re-release, there's obviously going to be, you know, controversy and stuff around it. And then like her kind of grappling with reviewing it and what that looks like, and cancel culture and all these things. So that was a really fascinating one for me to read personally. But that whole collection, highly recommend. I'll speak shorter on the ones that I wasn't like, you know, obsessed with. So Out of Touch, How to Survive an Intimacy Famine. This was I mean, whatever. It's like a pop science book. It's by somebody who academically has researched tech and relationship. And I was just hoping for more, you know, like interesting, creative. It was probably my fault for like reading a lot of radical books and then reading this like pop science book and not properly contextualizing it. But at the same time, it was frustratingly heteronormative. It wasn't that, you know, a lot of the stuff felt really like still not being willing to question the motives of big tech companies just kind of made me be like, oh, I'm not that interested. But there's some interesting summaries of research around intimacy and belonging and such in that book. I would take the author's conclusions with a big grain of salt. While we're on that, another one that I was kind of like, 3 stars, was Aspects of Meditation, is a series by Osho, who, if you know Osho Zen Tarot, it's that Osho. And then this was one where I've noticed this. I'm also reading a Deepak Chopra book. When they're kind of like controversial figures or like really known figures, and I don't have all the information and context for them, I'm always sort of like, I don't think that means you shouldn't be allowed to review something, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, was this like a problematic, charismatic healer type that ended up abusing a bunch of people? Like, I'm always nervous about that. Not with Deepak Chopra. Deepak Chopra, it's more like, I know he's a big name and that a lot of people are frustrated by like scientific claims he's made, and I don't get a real sense of like, is that just anti-spiritual, or is that, yeah, like where is that? You know, one of the challenges I think in any like consumption of media is, and criticism is like, you want to think critically about the source, but then I think often thinking critically about the source can be hard when the primary place you could find out more about the source, or that you're likely to find out more about the source, is just Googling. And that's going to include bias and perspectives. And so it can be hard to kind of like form your own critical opinion of something. But all that is to say, so like I'm not making no claim or like opinion about Osho as a person or the movement that he founded, but the book itself, it was, you know, there was some interesting stuff about like how it's mostly about, this first volume is mostly about the body in meditation and like what is the relationship with the body. And like a lot of it was I agreed with, but it wasn't necessarily new or different from other sources. And then some of it was like, what are you talking about? So it's just, I thought it was kind of sloppily edited. It's like it feels, I don't want to say it's cash grab, but it feels a little bit like, okay, we like recompiled, you know, it's like transcripts of recorded, like in the printed text, there will be things like, okay, students, like take a bathroom break. You know, it just feels a little weird. All right, 2 more books and then we're done. One, I am like thoroughly recommending to anybody who does any kind of a healing business, especially solopreneurs, but even if you're like in a practice, like you're a therapist, let's say in a practice, or you're, you know, have a relationship with something larger. Anybody who does healing work writ large, I think can really benefit from this book. Alora May Northrup is the author. And I'm not sure their pronouns, so I'm just gonna go with they. They are a therapist, but they're really speaking to, so if you're a tarot reader, astrologer, therapist, body worker, anything that you might consider healing. And Radical Healership is a book that kind of engages with the intersections between the spiritual side, the healing and healing including both like more metaphysical and then including things like that might fall into the realm of like therapy and self-work. Between that, spiritual healing and business, and like she really spoke to, my full reviews of all these are on Goodreads, but she really spoke to some of the things that can come up that might be unexpected. So like, just one example, the way that you can like procrastinate about something that feels really just sort of logistical, like getting a website up there. And the way that's actually really common, and it's not really about like figuring out which website host. It points to what's underneath and the kind of the, you know, whether it's that you're scared about putting yourself out there and there's some work you need to do around being in public, whether it's around language and the way you communicate. Like, there's all this stuff that comes up, and then it's like, oh, I just can't get my website up. I can't, like, I feel like I don't have enough in my head right now to like do a good review of this book, but I might do a full video on the channel because I really, really liked it. And then finally, God is a Black Woman by Christina Cleveland. This is uses the kind of rhetorical conceit of her telling the story of her pilgrimage that she took, where she went around the Auvergne, which is a region in France, to visit the Black Madonnas, which I didn't know anything about. I don't have any Christian background, so I'm not really familiar with like even like what the significance of a Madonna is. Like, I understand, I'm pretty sure it's a statue of Mary, but like that's all I got. But she writes about this this trip that she took, and the and meeting these Black Madonnas, and then interspersed and interwoven with her kind of, I would say theorizing, but not in a like dense way, but like sharing with the reader about her ideas around how what she calls white male God, one word, white male God, how white male God is this concept that is not necessarily inherent to or necessary to Christianity, but is formed up and is intricately linked with racist capitalism, and like the ways in which that idea of a white God and a male God, and then the idea of a white Christ, and then the idea of a white Mary, and like kind of a weaker version of Mary, how all of these things suffuse the cultural imagination, so that even if you're not directly affected by Christianity or don't think you are, you kind of are. And then speaking from the specific perspective of somebody who's gone through spiritual trauma, religious trauma, difficulties with, you know, family, and then working at Duke Divinity School and in an organizational context, really, so like she talks about the ideas of the sacred Black feminine and how important it was for her to like experientially discover that, but it kind of is gently theorizing as well, and then telling stories, and of course like any, like a memoir, you know, going through some of the painful stories that have illustrated the ways in which for her and for her Black family, this white male God idea was internalized and harmful, and then also using storytelling to show the potential of the sacred Black feminine, and like her own healing journey, and her experiential contact with the sacred Black feminine through these Madonnas, among other experiences. And it was interesting, as somebody in this kind of like woo-woo spiritual community and tarot, astrology, intuition, to think about how racism and misogyny have shaped Christianity in this way to look like this kind of rigid, rules-based capitalist system that isn't inherent to Christianity. And so, you know, she touches on like Black female traditions, Christian traditions of mysticism and like syncretism and blending, of course. There's a rich history of folks who were enslaved in this country, coming from Africa, and how women especially and probably non-binary people as well, melded Christianity with African tradition and the rich traditions that have sprung out of that and sustained to this day. So that probably isn't a shock for people who've grown up in Christianity, but for me, I think it was interesting to see how experiences like encountering the divine in dreams, these like very experiential encounters, to me it would kind of almost connect to like a witchcraft perspective or something, but in this book they're linked to a Christian take. Now at the end, there is kind of a hint at the end. I almost wondered if it was a setup for a second book, because there's kind of a hint that she then has gone on to explore the sacred black feminine outside of Christianity, and so its potential. And I hope there's a second book. That would be awesome. But yeah. So that's another book I would definitely recommend if that sounds interesting or you're curious about it. So I think that covers us for everything. And now my shoulder is mad at me, so it's perfect time to be done. So yeah, we'll see you next month for another wrap up. I will try to remember to leave stuff below or timestamp, but if you have any questions, just leave a comment, and we will see you in the next video. I don't think I have anything in particular to announce, but if you're not subscribed to my newsletter, that's where the magic happens.